It starts like a punch from underneath, not a gentle sway, not a distant rumble. This is a hard, violent jolt that throws cups off tables and sends picture frames slamming against walls. In Tokyo, in Yokohama, in Saitama, people don't ask if it's an earthquake. They already know. The only question is how bad. And before the first wave of panic can even settle, the ground hits again. A second tremor rips through the city like an invisible blade. Apartment towers creak, windows rattle like they're about to burst. In narrow streets, pedestrians freeze mid-step, looking up at power lines whipping like jump ropes. Somewhere in the distance, an alarm begins to scream, then another. Then the entire soundscape turns into one continuous warning. Phones light up all at once. Emergency alerts, red screens, sharp tones that cut through the chaos like sirens in your pocket. People pour out of buildings in waves, office workers still wearing ID badges, parents gripping children's wrists so tightly their knuckles go white, tourists stumbling into the open with confusion on their faces. Some are barefoot, some are crying, some are still holding toothbrushes, as if they were dragged out of normal life mid-breath. And then it becomes clear, this isn't one quake, this is relentless. The tremors keep coming, short, sharp bursts, then longer rolling shakes that make the street feel liquid. You can see it in the way traffic stops without anyone needing to be told. Cars pull over, buses halt, drivers stare forward with both hands locked on the wheel, waiting for the next hit like it's inevitable. Inside train stations, commuters push toward exits. Screens flicker, announcements crackle through loudspeakers, distorted by urgency. In some areas, trains slow to a crawl, then lock in place, doors still shut, passengers trapped in a metal tube that sways like it's floating. And everywhere, there's that look, that specific earthquake look. Eyes wide, mouths open, people silently counting seconds, waiting for the shaking to stop. But it doesn't. In the span of minutes, Japan is no longer experiencing a single event. It's entering a nightmare pattern. Quake, pause, quake again. Like the earth is breathing in anger. Like something huge is shifting beneath the islands. On the streets, strangers grab each other's shoulders to stay upright. Storefront shutters slam, glass breaks somewhere nearby. And in the middle of it all, one terrifying thought spreads faster than any official message. If this is only the beginning, what happens when the stronger one arrives? The first official statement hits the airwaves while the ground is still trembling. It's not calm. It's not polished. It sounds like a nation trying to speak while the floor keeps moving. Across Japan, television channels cut to emergency programming. News anchors sit rigid at their desks, hands braced, eyes darting off camera as producers shout updates. The red breaking banners don't leave the screen. They multiply, they stack, they crawl. And then the government warning system escalates. Emergency alerts begin arriving in waves, each one sharper, more urgent than the last. Some warn of continued shaking, others push evacuation guidance. And behind every message is the same unspoken fear. The authorities don't know when it ends. In Tokyo, disaster management teams flood command centers. Maps light up. Seismic monitors spike. Operators point at screens and talk faster than normal, voices tight with pressure. The moment the tremor pattern becomes obvious, quake after quake after quake, officials stop treating it like a single incident. They start treating it like a countdown. Train operators move into emergency protocols. Lines halt. Stations lock down. On highways, warning signs flash. In coastal areas, loudspeakers begin to bark instructions that echo through neighborhoods like an approaching storm. And then the word spreads. Tsunami risk. Not everywhere, not yet, but enough to trigger fear in every coastal town that's lived through it before. Families near the shoreline don't wait for confirmation. They've seen the footage. They remember the water pulling back. They remember what comes after. People start moving uphill. In local offices, officials grab microphones and begin issuing rapid instructions. In some towns, evacuation centers open within minutes. Gymnasiums, schools, community halls, anywhere with wide floors and reinforced walls. Volunteers rush in, rolling out blankets, pulling out bottled water, setting up emergency lights. But the shaking keeps interrupting everything. Papers slide off desks, computers wobble, cabinets rattle. And every time a new tremor hits, the entire system hesitates for a heartbeat. Because even the people in charge are human, and humans flinch. Then the experts appear: seismologists, disaster specialists, government advisors. Their faces fill the screen with serious expressions that never soften, and the message they deliver is not reassuring. They are shocked, not by one big quake, but by the pattern, the relentless sequence, the way the tremors refuse to fade, the way the intensity is rising instead of dropping. It's as if the Earth is testing the surface, probing, tapping, building towards something heavier. Officials begin using the phrases people dread: remain alert, prepare for strong shaking, do not return inside damaged buildings, and then, more ominously, a stronger tremor may occur. That sentence lands like a weight, because now the nation isn't just reacting to what happened. Japan is bracing for what might be coming next. And as night approaches, emergency crews scramble into position: firefighters, rescue teams, medical units, while above them, the streets tremble. And the threat grows hour by hour. The scariest part isn't the shaking itself, it's what the shaking is saying. In the command centers, the screens don't calm down. They don't flatten. They don't return to normal. Instead, the lines keep jumping. Sharp spikes, one after another. Like a heartbeat that won't slow, like a warning siren translated into numbers. And the experts watching those screens go quiet. Because this isn't a clean disaster. It's not one massive quake and then a slow fade into aftershocks. This is different. This is messy, aggressive, unstable. The tremors are arriving in clusters, tight bursts that hit in quick succession, then a short pause that feels like mercy, and then another hit. Each pause is long enough for people to believe it's over, and short enough to crush that hope seconds later. In neighborhoods across Tokyo and beyond, people start reacting to the pattern like trained survivors. They don't sit back down. They don't go back inside. They stand in open areas, staring at buildings like they're predators. Some keep helmets on. Some clutch emergency bags. Some refuse to let go of their children even for a moment. And then the strong ones begin to show up. Not constant, not predictable, but enough to change everything. A heavier tremor rolls through, long and sickening, turning streets into moving platforms. In apartment blocks, residents hear deep, groaning sounds. Walls flexing, beams complaining, the structure itself begging to stay upright. People scream from balconies. Others slam doors and run down stairwells, skipping steps. On the news feeds, maps update again and again. More epicenters, more red circles, more regions lit up like a spreading infection. And then the analysts start pointing at something that makes the room colder. The quakes aren't drifting away. They're tightening. Like the activity is pulling inward, like the ground is focusing its violence into a more dangerous zone. Experts begin whispering about a buildup, about an escalation. They don't use soft language anymore. They say what the public can feel already. This is building towards something. In coastal towns, emergency teams keep checking sea level sensors. Every time a strong tremor hits, everyone waits for the ocean to react. People stand on hillsides watching the dark shoreline, trying to see movement. The memory of past waves hangs in the air like smoke, silent, heavy, impossible to ignore. And on the streets of major cities, something else happens. The small damage becomes real damage. Cracks appear in roads like lightning scars. Old walls crumble. Glass rains from upper floors. Store signs snap loose and swing violently. In some areas, water pipes rupture and fountains shoot into the air, flooding streets already clogged with stalled cars. The shaking doesn't just scare people now. It starts breaking their world. Hospitals report injuries from falling objects, from stairwell tumbles, from panic-driven stampedes. Emergency rooms fill with people who can't breathe, not because of dust, but because terror has stolen their lungs. Doctors work with trembling hands while overhead lights sway like pendulums. And through it all, the experts keep repeating one terrifying reality. Aftershocks are supposed to fade, But this is not fading, this is intensifying. Hour by hour, the tremors are stacking like blows, and in every press briefing, in every hurried update, the warning grows sharper, more direct, more frightening. The stronger tremor threat is rising, not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. By now, Japan isn't living through an earthquake. Japan is living through a sequence, a rolling attack from beneath the ground, timed just perfectly to keep millions of people in a constant state of fear. The pattern becomes psychological warfare. Every time the shaking eases, people hold their breath. They stare at their phones. They listen for the next alert. They try to convince themselves they can go back inside, grab something, check on someone, return to normal. And then, without warning, the next tremor hits, hard enough to reset the panic, hard enough to remind everyone you are not in control. In Tokyo's high-rises, elevators are shut down, stairwells fill with footsteps and frantic breathing. Residents descend in silence, except for the occasional sob, the occasional whispered prayer, the occasional shouted warning to keep moving. Outside, the streets become crowded with refugees from their own homes. Blankets, backpacks, children asleep on shoulders, elderly neighbors being guided by the elbow, strangers offering water, offering a hand, offering directions to open areas, because everyone understands the same brutal truth. Inside is danger. And in the official briefing rooms, the tone changes. This is no longer monitoring. This is preparing. Authorities begin positioning resources like chess pieces, fire units in strategic locations, medical teams staged near dense neighborhoods, rescue crews ready to deploy the moment buildings fail. Transportation officials announce rolling shutdowns. Major bridges are inspected repeatedly. Tunnels are checked for cracking. The entire nation starts acting like it's standing under a ceiling that could collapse at any second, because experts are seeing something that terrifies them. The tremors are not random noise, they are warnings. The smaller quakes are acting like rapid footsteps leading toward something bigger, something that hasn't arrived yet. Experts compare the current activity to a tightening coil, a growing pressure beneath the islands. They don't say it's guaranteed, but they say the risk is climbing. And people hear what they're really saying. Japan may be on the edge of a major quake. Then comes the moment that flips the fear into something sharper. A stronger jolt hits, longer, heavier, making even seasoned emergency officials stiffen. It's the kind of shaking that makes people drop to their knees. Not from injury, but from instinct. The kind that makes buildings sway in slow motion, like they're bending under invisible hands. In some areas, the power flickers. For a split second, entire blocks go dark, and in that darkness, screams rise. Because darkness during an earthquake isn't just scary, it's a sign the systems are starting to fail. The warning alerts intensify again, but the words that spread across social media and group chats are much simpler. Don't sleep. Stay outside. It's not over. And now, hour by hour, the question changes. It's no longer, will it stop? It becomes, how much worse can it get before the Earth finally releases the bigger one? The shaking isn't just breaking buildings. It's breaking routines, breaking nerves, breaking the thin layer of calm that keeps a city functioning. Across Japan tonight, millions of people are living minute to minute, listening to the ground like it's a predator in the dark. In a Tokyo neighborhood park, the grass is packed with families who refuse to go home. Parents wrap coats around children who keep asking the same question. Is it over? And every time a tremor ripples through the ground, the answers die in their throats. The kids don't cry at first. They just stare, wide-eyed, learning fear in real time. In another district, a woman stands outside her apartment building with a phone in one hand and a small bag in the other. She keeps dialing. No answer. She tries again and again. Her husband is on a late shift. Her mother lives alone across the city. Every vibration in the pavement feels like the earth tearing their lives apart one connection at a time. A man in a convenience store parking lot has his elderly father in a wheelchair. He's shielding him from the cold wind with his own body, scanning the building across the street like it might suddenly fall. He whispers, "We can't go back in." Not because of damage he can see, but because he can feel what everyone feels now. That the next tremor could be the one that turns cracks into collapse. At evacuation centers, gym floors fill with people carrying whatever they could grab in seconds. Some arrive with nothing but the clothes they're wearing. Volunteers hand out water, rice balls, emergency blankets. But even inside these shelters, the fear doesn't stop. The lights sway, the walls creak. The tremors reach them too, shaking the building just enough to keep everyone on edge. No one truly rests. In hospitals, the pressure is brutal. Doctors treat cuts from shattered glass, broken wrists from falls, head injuries from objects thrown by shaking. But the hardest cases aren't always visible. People arrive trembling, breathing fast, unable to stop shaking even after the tremor ends. Panic attacks, shock, the body refusing to believe it's safe. And then there are the trapped calls. Emergency lines light up with voices crying out from inside damaged homes. People afraid to move, afraid to stay, afraid the next quake will bury them. Some report doors jammed shut. Others report ceilings cracking. Rescue teams move, but carefully, because even the rescuers are being hunted by the same threat. In coastal towns, fear takes on a different shape. Families stand on hillsides with flashlights, staring down at the ocean. The water looks normal, too normal. That's what scares them. Parents keep children close. Teenagers refresh news feeds obsessively. Older residents sit silently, their faces hard with memory. And in every city, every town, every shelter, there is one shared truth. Japan isn't just enduring quakes. Japan is waiting for the stronger tremor that experts keep warning about, waiting for the moment the Earth stops tapping and finally swings with full force. Japan's emergency systems are built for earthquakes, but tonight, the problem isn't one quake. It's the relentless rhythm, a disaster that won't let the country reset, won't let crews regroup, won't let the machines cool down, and slowly, frighteningly, the cracks start appearing in the response itself. In Tokyo, train lines remain frozen. Platforms are packed with commuters who can't get home and don't know where to go next. Some sit on the floor with their backs against pillars, staring at the tracks like they might suddenly come alive. Others argue with station staff who are trying to keep order. Outside the stations, traffic turns into a gridlocked maze. Intersections jam. Sirens fight through narrow streets but keep getting trapped behind cars that can't move. Drivers honk, then stop honking. Then the power flickers again. A few seconds in darkness, a surge back to light. But it's enough. Because when electricity becomes unstable during an earthquake sequence, people don't just fear inconvenience, they fear collapse. Elevator failures, hospital backup systems, communication towers, water pumps, every modern lifeline hanging on a thread. And that thread is shaking. In some neighborhoods, cell networks begin to choke. Too many calls, too many messages. Too many people trying to reach someone they love right now. Screens freeze, calls drop, texts fail to send. Emergency operators are flooded. Reports of damaged buildings, reports of gas smells, reports of people trapped. Fire crews race to one incident, only to be redirected to another. Ambulances reroute again and again as roads are blocked. And then the worst-case fear begins to spread. Gas leaks. Residents smell it in stairwells, in alleys. Authorities begin issuing rapid warnings. Because in earthquake disasters, it's not always the shaking that kills. Sometimes it's what the shaking triggers. And as the night deepens, fatigue hits like a second disaster. Emergency workers have been on their feet for hours. Citizens have been outside for hours. Children are cold. The country is running on adrenaline, but adrenaline doesn't last. And the terrifying truth is this: Japan's systems can handle one major quake, but a relentless chain, hour after hour, pushes everything toward overload. And if the stronger tremor arrives while the nation is already strained, the safety net could snap. The night reaches a point where fear stops being loud. It becomes quiet. Not because people feel safe, because they don't, because everyone is listening. Across Japan, millions of eyes are open in the dark. In parks, shelters, cars, and open streets, people sit with their backs against walls, staring at nothing, waiting for the next vibration. The air is cold. Breath hangs in clouds. Every distant sound, every creak of metal, every rumble of a passing truck feels like the start of the end. And then it hits. Not a quick jolt, not a small reminder. A heavier tremor surges through the ground like a deep roar, rolling for long seconds that feel endless. Buildings sway with slow, sickening force. Light poles whip. The pavement ripples underfoot. In Tokyo, people scream again, raw, involuntary, because this one feels different. This one feels like the earth is finally committing. In some districts, glass explodes from high windows. Car alarms ignite in a chain reaction. A few older structures finally give up, walls cracking open, bricks dropping into streets, dust rising like smoke. Sirens return instantly, but they sound distant now, swallowed by the scale of the moment. For a brief stretch of time, Japan holds its breath. Experts watch their screens with clenched jaws. Officials grip microphones, waiting for confirmation. Rescue crews brace in place, praying they're not standing beneath the wrong roof. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the shaking eases. It doesn't stop completely. It never fully stops tonight. But it eases enough for people to realize they're still alive. And that's when the second wave hits. Not the ground, the mind. People begin checking for messages again, calling names, searching for family, running toward buildings they swore they wouldn't go back into because fear of loss is stronger than fear of collapse. In shelters, children cry harder now. Adults try to calm them, but their own hands are shaking. In command centers, officials speak in clipped sentences because the latest tremor wasn't the end. It was a sign that the threat is still building beneath Japan. Because experts are now saying what they didn't want to say earlier, the relentless quakes may not be the disaster. They may be the lead-up, a staircase of shaking leading toward something larger. And now, with every hour that passes, the question becomes darker. If the Earth can do that, what happens when it does more? Outside, the streets remain filled with people who refuse to sleep. Some stare at the skyline. Some stare at the ground. Some whisper prayers. Some don't speak at all. Japan is still standing, but it's standing on a moving foundation. And tonight ends the way the worst disasters always end. Not with closure, but with uncertainty. Because beneath the cities, beneath the coastlines, beneath the mountains, something is still shifting. And no one can promise the next tremor won't be the one they've been fearing all along.